Then we're going to divide by 2. So they'll give us halfway between, which is 59.5. And then we'll do the same thing between these two numbers. So we'll get 64 plus 65. Oops, sorry. Oh, that's right. Divide by 2, or halfway between those two numbers, and that would be 64.5. We keep going, we'll do it one more time. 69 plus 70, divide by 2, or 69.5. Now notice the difference between these two numbers and these two numbers. If I take 64.5 minus 59.5, that gives me 5. Same thing, the distance between these two numbers is 5, which this is our class width. So the easiest thing to do is to do this right here one time, and then take this number and just keep adding 5 until you have one more than the number of classes. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 classes, so I need 9 different numbers here. So I'm going to take the 69.5 and just keep adding 5. So 74.5, add 5 again. 79.5, add 5 again. 84.5, and then 89.5, and then 94.5. And then last one, 99.5. Now notice I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 numbers. So all of those numbers right there, those are my class boundaries. Okay, so it's a boundary between the first class, second class, third class, fourth class, etc. Now your class midpoints. So you're going to look at the individual classes. So they say this one right here. And we're going to say 60 plus 64 divide by 2, midway between them. So that's going to give us 62. And then we'll go down to the next class. So 65 plus 69 divide by 2, and that will give us 67. We'll do one more, do this one right here. 70 plus 74 divide by 2, and that's going to give us 72. Now again, notice the difference between these two is 5. The difference between these two is 5, which is our class width. So easiest thing to do is to do this right here first. Get this 62 or this number, and then just keep adding 5 or your class width until you have as many classes. So we said 8 classes, so I need 8 numbers. Okay, so I'm going to take the 72 and add 5, 77, 77 plus 5, 82, 82 plus 5, 87, 87 plus 5, 92, and then 97. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different numbers. And those are all my class midpoints, or the middle number within each of these classes. Okay, now let's actually make a table with 5 classes using this data right here. Now since the table is not already created for us, we're actually doing that ourselves. What we need to do is number 1, how many classes do we need? That's the first thing. Select the number of classes. Well, they said use 5. Second thing is calculate the class midpoint, or sorry, class width. So that would be class width, which is max minus min divided by the number of classes. Okay, so within our data, right here, the max number looks like 98. The smallest number looks like 21. And it said use 5 classes. So divide by 5. So that's going to give us 15.4. But remember, if we're looking for the class width, we're always going to round this up to the next higher number if it comes out to a decimal. So this would be 16. Okay. The next thing that we need to do is to start with the smallest number. Start with the smallest number. And then create the classes with the class width. We're actually going to be creating the lower class limits first. Okay, start with the smallest number, which is always the same as this right here. That'll go right here. Okay, And then I'm going to add the class width to this number. So 21 plus 16, 37. 37 plus 16, 53. 53 plus 16, 69. And 69 plus 16, 85. Okay, so that's our lower class limits. Now we need to get our upper class limits. Now notice, if this is going to start at 37, this class will end at 36. Okay, then you can take this number and add 16 to it. So 52, and then 68, and then 84, and then 100. So we've created our classes. Now what we need to do is go back, look at our data. How many numbers fall between 21 and 36 within our data? Well, I've got 21, and 32 fall between 21 and 36, so 2. How many numbers fall between 37 and 52? Well, I don't have any. Between 53 and 68, okay, so 53, if there's 54 and 65 fall between 53 and 68, so 2. How many numbers fall between 69 and 84? None. And between 85 and 100, well, 87 and 98, there's 2. Okay, so notice how many numbers I have here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers. If I add the frequency here, and this little symbol right here, it's Greek. It really just means add everything up, or the summation of. So if I say the summation of all of our frequencies, and I'll just say that's F. So that means just add up all these numbers here. So 2 plus 2 plus 2 gives us 6. Okay, which that should be the same thing as the number of points in our data set. So this right here is just to help us make sure that we didn't miss anything or we didn't overcount one of the numbers. Okay, but we get rid of this. Okay, this right here is our frequency table based on that data set and that number of classes. Okay, so now we're going to make a table with 3 classes right here. It says in each of the 20 homes, people were asked how many cars were registered to their homes. Here's our data set right here. Okay, so the very first thing is find your class width. So the max number looks like 4. The smallest number looks like 0. And how many classes? Well, it says 3. So that's going to give us 1.3. Remember, for the class width, we're going to round up. So 2 is our class width. Okay, so we're going to start with the smallest number, 0, and keep adding our class width, 2 and 4. That gives us our lower class limits. Okay, if this one's going to start at 2, this one will end at 1, and then I'll keep adding my class width to it, so 3 and then 5. Okay, so how many zeros and ones do I have here? Okay, well, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and then how many 2s and 3s? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2s and 3s. Then how many 4s and 5s? Really just 4s. 1, 2. Okay, if I add these up, that gives me 20. Okay, now notice I don't have to count all these right here, because right here it says 20 homes. Okay, so there should be 20 data points right there. So that lines up. And there's our table right there. That's it. Now I'm going to make one little tweak on this one. I'm going to go from 3 classes to 5 classes. Number 1 is going to change the table, and it'll also change the class width. Okay, so we'll go ahead and find the class width. The max is still 4, the min is still 0, but now it's not divided by 3, it's divided by 5 because we're looking at 5 classes. So this is going to give us 0.8. So that would be 1. Okay. Same thing over here. Start with your smallest number, 0. Keep adding your class width. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now on this one, notice I don't have to go from 0 to another number because there's all my numbers right there. So I just need to find how many zeros we have for this class, how many ones we have for this one, how many twos, and so on. Okay. So I don't need an upper and a lower limit, class limit for this one. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ones. I'll go ahead and just give you the rest. 5, 3, and 2. And if I add all of those up, they do come out to 20. Okay, so this is just to show you that if you change the number of classes, you'll change your table and you'll also change your class width. Okay, now relative frequency, it's the frequency of a class divided by the summation of f. And there's that Greek symbol again. That just means add up all your frequencies. A percentage frequency distribution, really the relative frequency times 100%, that gives you a percentage. As in this right here. Okay, so here's our classes right here. There's our frequency within our class. If we add all those up, that gives us 2,000. The relative frequency, and I just really just call it, abbreviate it, RF. That would be, okay, the frequency of the class, the first class that we're in, 800, divided by the total, 2,000, 0.4. Okay. For the second class, you need the frequency of the second class, 720, divided by the total, 0.36. In order to get from your relative frequency to percentage, all you have to do is multiply each one of these times 100%. And that will give you your percentage. Same thing for all of these. Okay. Now, if I add up all of my relative frequencies, this is going to give me 1, or something close to 1. If I get a relative frequency of 0.999 or 1.001, these are okay. But if I get a 0.99 or a 1.01 for my relative frequency, there's something wrong with my calculations. Okay? And the reason why you wouldn't get 1 every single time is because if you get a decimal here, you have to cut off the numbers somewhere, so you get just a little bit of round off error. This is the acceptable limit of round off error. This right here is too much. Okay. Okay, so let's calculate the class's frequency and relative frequency and percentage for this data set using 5 classes. So the very first thing is to find our class width. So class width would be our max, which looks like 5, minus our min, which looks like 1, divided by, okay, we got 5 classes. So this would be 0.8 or 1. Start with our smallest. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Notice that this is all of our numbers within our data set, so we don't have to have a lower and an upper class limit. I'm going to tell you you got 4, 5, 2, 6, and 3. That should add up to 20, and I have 20 numbers here. Okay, so we'll go ahead and say summation of f is 20. Relative frequency for the first class is 4 divided by 20, or 0.2. 5 divided by 20, or 0.25. 2 divided by 20, or 0.10. 6 divided by 20, or 0.30. And 3 divided by 20, or 0.15. Notice if I add all of these up, this will come out to 1.